Okay, so good morning, everyone. In today's session, we are going to get started with working on Python programming with Django framework. And today we are going to perform connections with databases. So in order to perform connection with databases, there are a couple of settings which we need to perform, which we are going to implement today. So overall objective of today's session is to create a new application within a project and finally configure the application with connections to databases. Ensure that your databases are appropriately installed and the user authentication with usernames and passwords is correctly configured. So that's what we guys are going to perform today. So let's get started. Initially, we'll start with our terminal. Now here in the terminal, what you're going to do, you're going to create a Django application and connect it to a database. And as you all remember, so what we have to, we'll quickly connect to database on our AWS server. So let's quickly go to console.aws.amazon.com. So here what we are going to do, we are going to create a Django project. Within a Django project, we are going to create a Django application. Once the Django application is created, we are going to connect to a database. We will be deploying all this Django project and connections to database on our AWS server, which is an EC2 instance which we are using. So let's quickly get access to the IP address which I have. All the participants, those who are connected, Karanjit and Arush, they will be configuring their own machines to set up Django application and Django project. So now let's get started. All of you can get started with your Amazon EC2 Kali Linux account and you can access that using SSH. Once you guys are ready, we'll quickly proceed with creation of Django project, a Django application, and connect it to database. Okay. Hi Karanjit, how are you? Everything is good?
Yes, sir. Good.
Okay. So our today's objective is to get setup of Django frameworks for web application development and deployment. And as you all know, that we need to be very comfortable with Python programming when we have to implement security-based solutions on servers as well as for applications. So it would be better that if you understand the core web framework, how web applications are working today, because the Django framework is used quite commonly in the industry today. And if you understand the functionality of how that web frameworks work, it would be much better to understand how to exploit those applications. Okay, so that's what is our objective. So now what we are going to do, let me just quickly connect to the server. Now here I have my server. I'll be using 13.233.250.174. That is going to be my server where I will be configuring our Django project. So let's quickly log into sudo secure shell. Let's quickly go to downloads and I have the key file yashwini.pem. I'm going to connect to my account ec2-user on the server IP address. We are going to define the password and now we have logged into our EC2 user Kali. Currently, in the previous sessions, we have created an Arush project and we have created applications in it. We have configured the settings like configuration of URLs and path. And finally, we have checked that our application was running on the IP address. Now today, we are going to create another project. Let's call that project a database project. And using that database project, we are going to connect our MySQL databases with our application. Okay. So, I'll quickly get started. First of all, what you all can do is, in case if you guys are not ready with the server, you can quickly install. By default, in Kali Linux, we do have our MySQL available. But in case if anybody does not have, you can use this command sudo apt-get install mysql-server. So using this command, you can actually install MySQL server. And once MySQL server has been set up, you can actually get started with connections of your project with MySQL databases. Now, once we are ready with that, let's get started with a new project. We have already installed Django on our framework, and in case if anybody wants to learn how to install Django and set up Django on AWS, you can watch our previous sessions. Lesson number 6, 7, 8, we have done this recordings, so you all can quickly view that. Now we are going to get started with setup of Django project. So we are going to make use of Django admin. We are going to create start project, and let's just call this project as, let's say we are going to create a sample blog. Okay, so let's call this project as a blog project. I hope you all are aware about what a blog is. Blog is just like a web page where you can write your articles. Okay, so earlier there were a lot of websites which used to create blogs. Like one of the most common was blogspot.com, where a lot of blogs are available. So we are going to create a project, let's say blog. Now, once we have created this project blog, let's just change the directory to the project blog, and let me know if you guys are done with creation of the project. Now, before we log into this project, let's just quickly check the contents of our project. To check the content, you can make use of tree and you can define blog. So once you do that, you can quickly see now we have a main directory blog, which does have a file manage.py, which we are going to use in order to create our applications, in order to run our server. Apart from that, we have the blogs directory, which we have to convert blogs URL and the settings. So please confirm me on chat if you both are ready. Great. Okay, now let's see. So what next we are going to do now? So here, once we are done with the project, we are going to configure certain settings for management of the databases. Okay. So now, first what we do, let us just quickly go to settings.py under the blogs. And first of all, what we are going to configure, we are going to configure time zones today. So as you all know about time zones, let me just quickly show you. Okay, let's just quickly go to a website like time zones. Okay, so in order to quickly have the different time zones, time and date, there are multiple time zones available, like IST is available, UTC is available. There are various time zones available. So in order to get a list of time zones, you can either go to Wikipedia also. So what we can do is, let's just go for a list of time zones, list of TZ database time zones. Okay, so this is time zone database time zone. Whenever you have to configure your database with respect to the country from where you are collecting the data. Suppose we have created an application for India, okay, and we have to follow the time zone of India. So whenever somebody at his place uses our blog or uses our website, and he performs some operations like login operation or creation of the account, and we want to make a log that when he has created, so we are going to configure our application with the appropriate time zone so that we can identify at what time zone the user has performed those tasks. Okay, so here we have a list of TZ database time zones. Whenever you have to configure time zones with respect to databases, this list is one of the most useful list. Now here in the list, you can see that the list is available in this format where we have a country code, we have the latitude, longitude, we have the TZ database name, what name we should define in the database, along with the status and the UTC time. Okay, so we have to define something for Asia, Kolkata. Okay, so for India, okay, we have to define this time zone. For India, for plus 5:30 GMT, Greenwich Mean Time, we have to define this name Asia/Kolkata so that our database can follow Asia Kolkata time zone. Is that clear? So let's just quickly go here. We'll quickly go to our blog. Okay. Now within the blog, you can see that we have another directory, that is the blog directory. And within that blog directory, oh, not pwd, I have to do ls. So we have a blog directory and we have a manage.py. So in order to quickly configure the settings, we have to open settings.py and change the time zone configuration. By default, it is UTC, but we are configuring that for India's time zone. So to do that, let's quickly open sudo nano. Under the blog, we are going to have settings.py. Let's open settings.py. Now, once we open settings.py here, if I go a little down on this file, you can see that we have various options available like the base directory of the project, the security key or the secret key of the project, okay, along with the allowed hosts. Then we have application definitions. We have the middleware. Finally, we are going to get information about the databases also. So there are some templates available. And here we do have the database configuration. Apart from database configuration, there is internationalization confirmation. Okay. So how will you internationalize your website? By providing the time zone as well. So UTC is for universal time, but we have to change that to Asia, let's say Kolkata. Okay, Asia Kolkata will be the new time zone. Let's just use Control O and save the project. Now, once we are done, you need to perform one more change, and that is configuration of the static files. The files that get served from your Django web application are referred to as static files. This could include any necessary files to render the complete web page, and these include JavaScript, CSS, and images. So when you create a website, you will have an index page that will be the HTML page, but that HTML page will be linked to multiple files. These files could be CSS files and JavaScript files. So you have to keep all those CSS and JavaScript and image files in a static files directory. Okay. By default, in the previous session where we created the web page, luckily we have created the web page in such a way that the CSS and JavaScript were available or included within the code itself, within the HTML code itself. But in the real-time cases, it may not be possible. So what we have to do, we have to configure a directory to store static files, and we have to make that configuration. So in order to have that configuration, let's just quickly identify the static configuration here. Okay. So if you go to if you go above, you can see that we have got the databases, root configurations, middleware, secret key base. Okay, I think that would be at the bottom. Let's just go here. Okay, here we have the static files. So now you guys can see. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So now, to keep the static files like CSS, JavaScript, and images, you have to define a directory. Okay. So now what we have to do, we do have the static URL defined as /static, where we can keep our CSS and our other HTML files, but we are going to define a static root. So let's just define the static root directory, that this will be the directory where all the static files will be available. So we can make use of operating system object OS. We can select the path, and over the path, we can call this join function. What this join function can do, join function can take the base directory and will join static along with it. Okay. So in the current directory, we are going to create a static folder, and within that static folder, we can keep all our CSS and JavaScript pages. Is that clear? Let's save it. Now, third thing which we have to do is we have to perform configuration of allowed host. In order to quickly perform that, let's just quickly search for allowed hosts here. Okay, here we do have the allowed host. We have to define the IP address here. This IP address is our server's IP address, 13.233.250.174. That is in my case. You can quickly check your public IP address of your AWS EC2 server, and you can define that IP address in the allowed host here. This will allow your applications to run publicly on this server, on this IP address, and people from the world will be able to access your applications. Okay. So let's save it and confirm me on chat if you guys are done till here. Great. So now, once you guys are done, let's just save it. Control O, Control X. So now what we have done, we have configured the static directory. We have configured the IP address. Okay. And we are also done with the time zone. So once we are done with all these three configurations, now let's get started and create a MySQL-based connector. Okay. Karan, you have written cd/var www.html. What's that? Okay, no problem. Fine. So now in the next step, what we are going to do, we are going to install MySQL database connector. Okay. So in order to quickly install MySQL database connector, you need to have a live MySQL client, okay, installed, and then you can install MySQL client. That will be a class which you can use in order to connect Python applications with MySQL database. Now, in order to do that, let's quickly start with the setup. So in order to perform that setup, we are going to call sudo apt get install, sudo apt get install, and we're going to install default live MySQL client for development. Okay. So let's press enter. So once you press enter, 17.6 MB of your additional disk space will be used, and you're going to get MySQL client libraries set up for development. This is a mandatory requirement. Once you are done with setup of live MySQL client, then you will be able to install MySQL client library from Python Package Explorer, and you will be able to use that with your Python applications. Okay, so if you want to see the command is to apt get install default live MySQL client. Okay, here is the command. So you all can quickly execute that. And once you are done with installation of default live MySQL client for development, let me know. Okay, guys, are you guys done? Any questions till now? In progress? Okay, great. Okay, now here, let's just quickly see. We have got around 3 of default live MySQL client setup. Okay, now you guys can see we have got our setup done. Great. So I guess you all are done. Now what things we are going to do? So now we have to install our Python MySQL client. Okay. So you can install Python MySQL client using pip installer. So let's go for it. So you can execute sudo apt get install MySQL client. Okay. We actually do need to use pip to install that. So let's use it from user anaconda bin pip. Okay, using pip we are going to install MySQL client. So for OS, for Kali Linux, we have already done that installation with default live MySQL client for development. Now, once that is set up on OS, we want our Python to be connected with that MySQL client. Okay, so for that we are making use of pip installer, so that we are going to get a library for Python which can access MySQL client and can connect to MySQL databases. Okay, now let's quickly press enter. Now, once we press enter, we are going to get MySQL client set up. So this is the command: user anaconda bin Python install MySQL client. Now, once we are done with that, we will be creating our databases. Okay, let me know if you guys are done. Okay, are you guys done? Confirm me on chat if you both are done. Okay, Arush, what is the error? I'm stopping my share. You can share your screen, Arush. We'll see. You have written anaconda.
सर यहाँ पे एनाकोंडा लिखा था, यहाँ भी यही आया था.
Install hyphen MySQL client is the wrong statement. Install space MySQL client.
सर
Bad interpreter. Slash user anaconda bin python. What are you trying to write? Go to the directory first and let's see if you have that correct path or not. Use change directory and go to the anaconda directory. That is in the slash root directory. You are just trying to go into cd user. USR is not available in blog. Do you have USR directory in the current path where you are trying to type?
सर होम पे आ गया मैं.
होम USR डायरेक्टरी है आपकी? स्लैश रूट डायरेक्टरी के अंदर होती है ना डायरेक्टरी, तो स्लैश USR स्लैश एनाकोंडा इस तरीके से डालोगे ना. Change the directory. Go to bin. Now run pip from here. pip-h. Check if your pip is running. -h. pip space -h. pip command is not found. Check if you have pip3. But pip command is there. You have to run either chmod 777 pip. Have you reinstalled this directory?
No sir.
Try to run that with sudo if possible. Use sudo. pip command not found. Run ls space -l. ls space -l pipe. Press a symbol, pipe symbol. Give a space. Give a pipe symbol. Pipe symbol is just above enter button. You have to use shift and pipe space grep grep. Now within double quotes, just type pip. Execute. So it is read write x, read write x, read execute. It's already read executable. Just run. Why you are not able to run pip? Execute pip again. Run /pip. Bad interpreter, no such file or directory. Do one thing, type chmod triple seven space pip. Now run pip. Yesterday you were able to use pip, right? Previously
Yes,
in the
sir.
sessions you have used pip. What has happened here? Have you tried to change any configuration or anything?
No, sir. No, sir.
PIP Anaconda win Python bad interpreter. Bad interpreter comes. Just give me a moment. Let me just think. Okay. Do one thing.
Yes, sir.
Try to execute Python here and let's see if Python is working. Press enter. Python लिखा है. Python है. Just execute Python just like that without hyphen h. Python is working. Okay. So do one thing. Just type Python space -m space install space pip. Press enter. No module. Sorry. Execute like that. Sorry. Python hyphen Python space -m space pip space install, and then you have to install MySQL client. Yeah, press enter. Why are you typing Python again and again? No module name pip. Do that with pip3. Just type Python 3, sorry. Just type, again you have written wrong spelling of Python. Python 3 hyphen m3. pip3 is one word. pip3. Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir.
there is some misconfiguration in your Anaconda. You would have done some changes, I hope. Any bad command you would have executed maybe.
सर कुछ भी नहीं किया मैंने तो जब आपको भेजा था ना अपना आईपी एड्रेस है उसके बाद से तो मैंने वो ये इसमें कुछ किया ही नहीं है उसके बाद से लैपटॉप ही नहीं खोला मैंने
तो पीआईपी मॉड्यूल अपने आप वर्किंग बंद कर सकता है, ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है? चलो एक कमांड और ट्राई करो। टाइप करो apt-get install apt-get install pip. Unable to locate package pip. जब आपने ये एनाकोंडा सेटअप किया था तब आपने रूट अकाउंट से ही सेटअप किया है?
यस सर मैं तो रूट अकाउंट से ही करता हूँ सब कुछ।
स्ट्रेंज, कोई नहीं, एक काम करते हैं, देखते हैं इसको बाद में। पहले हम अपना सेशन कंप्लीट करते हैं, बाद में इसको देखते हैं।
सर मैं फिर ये एग्जीक्यूट कैसे करूँ?
कमांड्स नोट करते जाओ सीक्वेंस में। ओके,
यस सर।
स्टॉप योर शेयर। ओके, तो हमने ये कमांड एग्जीक्यूट किया, यूजर एनाकोंडा bin vip install mysql client. Okay, so once we are done with that, now we have to create a database which we would like to be connected with our Django framework. Okay, so in order to do that, let's quickly use mysql -u root -p. This you can execute. Okay, Ayush.
Yes, sir. Just a second.
Okay, so what we are going to do, let's just log into MySQL database, sudo mysql -u root -p. Okay, you need to check whether you have the appropriate database available which you would like to use in the demonstration. Along with, you are going to create an account also, using which you are going to give permissions to your Django application. Okay, now listen. So what we're going to do, let us just create the database. So we'll quickly see how many databases we do have at the moment. So we have 4 databases here. I'm going to create a new database, create database blog. I'm going to create a new database with the name db blog, let's say, database blog. Okay, we have created a database known as db blog. Now if we show the databases, you can quickly see we have got a db blog database created. Okay, are you all clear till here?
Sir. Sir.
Yes, yes, please tell me.
सर इसके अंदर मैं जैसे ही क्रिएट डेटाबेस डीबी ब्लॉग लिखता हूँ तो वो एक नई लाइन में ले आता है, कुछ होता है मतलब
share your screen.
यस
You have not used semicolon at the end. वहीं पे ही लगा देते सेमीकोलन। चलो करो।
ओके सर।
Okay, is that clear? So we have got the database DB blog. Now what we are going to do, we have got to see we have got our database created. Now we are going to create a user for this to access this particular database. Okay. So what we can do, let's quickly create a user. We are going to create this as, let's say, blog user. Okay. We are going to create a blog user at, we are going to give him the domain from where he can access. So this connection would be available on all the hosts identified by, okay. You can either use identify by, or you can use with MySQL native password. Okay. So we can say identified by password ABCDE 1 2 3 4 5, let's say. So I've taken a random password here and I've executed that. So once you have got your user created, now you can give permissions to the database for this user. So what we are going to say, we are going to say grant all, give him all the permissions, grant all on DB blog, okay, DB blog dot star. So within this database, we are going to give permissions to all the files, all the tables and rows, whatever it will be created. We are going to give permission to all the tables, okay, to the user which we have just created. So we are going to give the permission to blog user. Okay. So we have defined that we are providing privileges to this blog user to access the database with all the privileges, which means he'll be able to create, read, update, delete, modify, whatever he wants, he can do that with the database. Okay. Let's press enter. So now you can see we have got our ID and password set. Now finally, we are going to flush privileges. Flush privileges. So flush privileges will ensure that your database passwords have been reset. यहाँ तक कर लिया आप सभी लोगों ने? Okay, now, so once we have got the configurations done, now what we are going to do, we are going to add the MySQL database connection to our application. In order to do that, let's quickly exit from here. Okay, we have add the MySQL database connection to our application. So how we are going to define the connection information to our application. So we have to open settings.py. Okay, let's open our settings.py. So we'll quickly go to sudo nano /blog settings.py. Okay, and let's open that. So once I press enter to sudo nano blog settings.py, you can see that we are going to get the settings again, and this time we are going to configure the database section. Okay, here. So under the database section, you all can quickly see we have got information of a database, which is a default database. The engine is SQLite 3 and name is db.sqlite 3. But whenever you're going to make professional projects, you always need to use MySQL. Okay, understood? So what we are going to do, we are going to define MySQL configurations. So in order to define MySQL configurations, what all do we need to do? Let us just comment this default database. To have a multi-line comment, we are going to make use of 3 double quotes. We are going to mark it as comment. So we have disabled the SQLite 3 connections. Now we are going to change the default connection to MySQL database, which we just installed. So for that, we are going to define databases. Okay. We're going to define the databases. Now within the database is going to act like a dictionary. Now within this dictionary, you're going to have the first key as a default key. This is going to be your default key. Default key will have a dictionary. Okay. Now within this dictionary, you will have 2 keys. One will be the engine, second will be the options. So engine will be your backend MySQL database engine, which has to be connected with Django. And options will be your connection configurations file. Okay. So let's just define engine. We have got a key engine. Now this key engine will have a value, which is going to be a string value. Let's just define Django.db.backends.mysql. Okay, Django.db.backends.mysql. So this is your engine. Now second information which you like to have will be your options. So just below the engine, we are also going to define options. Okay. Now what this options will have, options is going to have a string file. Okay. Now within this string file, again, we are going to have a key value kind of pair. Okay. So this will be under the options, we are going to define read default file. Read default file. Okay. And this will be from /etc/mysql. And you can define a configuration file, our CNF or my CNF, anything like that. Okay. So you can actually define /my.configuration. Okay, is that clear? So you can define as many values as you want. So for that, you can make use of commas in order to separate, or else you can leave it like that also. So I hope this is clear now. What we have done, we have got a database. Now within that database, we have two key value pairs. One is engine, second is options. Okay. Let's save it. Control O, Control X. I hope this is clear till here. So what you have done, you have defined that your default backend engine will be MySQL backend engine, and the configuration file will be in a directory etc mysql my.cnf. Now we will go to my.cnf and we are going to modify this file so that we can make a successful connection to the database. So by the time, let's quickly save the file. Use Control O, press enter, use Control X. Is that clear? Okay, both of you confirm me on chat if you guys are clear till here. So we are done with the installation process. We are done with the database creation and management process. We are done with configuration of database with MySQL. Now we have to create our configuration file. Okay. So now what we are going to do, let us just create the file sudo nano. Okay, sudo nano, and we are going to open etc/mysql/ we are going to create a directory my.cnf. We have to update this file. Sudo nano my.cnf. This file is already available my.cnf, but this would be an empty file. So we are going to open this configuration file and we are going to define our database, user, password, and the default character set. So now what it will do, it is capable of making a connection with the database. And now you don't need to worry about the connection and all that stuff. You will be easily able to perform CRUD operations on the data you have using the database. I hope you all are clear. Now let's open my configuration. Just let me know if you guys are done so that we can continue further. Okay, great. So let's open myCNF. Now this is a database configuration file. You can see it does have a client server configuration here. What I would like to do, I would like to make a new client. Okay. And this client will be connected to our database. Let's call it as DB blog. I think that's the name of my database. Okay. Similarly, we are going to define the username. Username will be blog user. Then we will have the password. Okay. So blog user does have the password ABCDE12345. If you remember correctly, I have used this password only. ABCD12345. I hope so. Finally, we'll quickly go to default character set. default character set, and we can change the default character set to UTF-8. UTF-8 is set as the default encoding. This is a common way to encode Unicode data in MySQL. Okay, so what will happen whenever you have to encode a Unicode information in MySQL, you will always make use of default character set equal to UTF-8 statement. Okay. Now, once you're done, close it and save it. Control O, press enter, save it. Control X. So we came out of the database configuration files. Now simply we have to test MySQL connection with the application. Okay. Now let's start running the server. So we are going to call user anaconda bin python. You have to call manage.py. You have to execute the command run server. You have to define your IP address. IP address is 13.233.250. But what we can do is just do one thing. I have forgot the space here between both of them. Manage.py. Okay. Run server. Then use your IP address on all the public interfaces, followed by the port number. Okay. So now let's press enter. Now once we press enter, you can see that our development server is properly running. So since the development server is properly running, that means our application was successfully able to communicate with the database. Okay. So there is no problem as of now. Clear? Now once this is done, we can quickly go and see if the application is working on the browser. If our application is working on the browser, colon 8000, I think I've used 8000 only. Yeah, 8001 is the port number. 8001. Okay, so let's run it, and now you can see that our application is running in an extremely fast state. Now this defines that our Python project is now successfully connected with the database. In case if we were unable to connect to the database, we would have got an error. Okay. I hope you all are clear till here that how we can actually connect a database. Next, you guys have to work on the concepts of modules. Models. Okay. So models are very important in Django. So you will learn how to create Django models. When you create the Django models, okay, that defines the fields and behaviors of the block. Okay, so let's say block will be our application data that we will be storing. So the models will be defining the fields and behaviors. Okay. So what is the objective of a Django model? So Django model map the data from your Django application to the database. It's what Django uses to generate the database tables via their object relational mapping API called models. Okay. Okay. I hope this is clear. Okay, are you guys done till here? Arush, you will be having errors because already you didn't have PIP installed. That's why you would have been getting an error. But let's see what's your error. You can show your screen. You may have not closed the bracket in settings.py file. So yours will run properly because you will be needing MySQL client when you will be writing the code. Okay. So since you are not writing the code at the moment, hence that won't be a problem. Not here. You have to go to the static at the last. And here the file also which you have defined does not have the dot. No, not here. You don't need brackets here. You need to end the join bracket. You have called the join function. Join function वाला bracket end करो. ओके ऊपर जाइए ऊपर भी आपने वहाँ पे my.cnf है जो डेटाबेस में आपने लिखी हैं इंफॉर्मेशन दैट इज my.cnf.
सर कहाँ पे?
या etc mysql my.cnf है वो फाइल. Okay, now you save and run.
सर
Yes.
सर यहाँ पे हमने 0 क्यों लिखा है? यहाँ पे हमने आईपी एड्रेस क्यों नहीं लिखा अपना?
0 also signifies 0.0.0.0. File name is wrong. Manage.py.
सर
यस
सर नहीं हो रहा,
क्या नहीं हो रहा?
सर रन नहीं हो रहा।
चेक करो क्या प्रॉब्लम है। django.db.backend लिखा है आपने backends की जगह। Go to settings.py again.
यस सर।
प्रोजेक्ट पे जाइए, settings.py ओपन कीजिए अपने प्रोजेक्ट की। Either you have to change the directory or just show where the directory is.
एक सेकंड, ब्लॉग एना, एक सेकंड। कैसे सर, क्या कमांड करनी है?
लिस्ट करके डायरेक्टरी पहले चेक करो। यहाँ पे है ही नहीं आपकी डायरेक्टरी। कौन सी डायरेक्टरी में आपने बनाया?
सर यहीं पे है।
तो लिस्ट में आना चाहिए था ना, अगर होता तो।
हाँ जी सर, आना तो चाहिए।
VAR वर्ल्ड वाइड वेब में तो नहीं है?
नहीं सर, इसमें भी नहीं है। लेकिन मेरा ये पेज चल रहा है, यूट्यूब डॉट ये वाला वेब पेज डॉट py।
वो बात तो ठीक है, अभी जो ब्लॉग बनवाया है वो कहाँ है?
यहीं पे था।
अपने आप तो डिलीट नहीं हो सकता भाई।
नहीं सर, मैंने कुछ गड़बड़ तो की है सर, मुझे समझ नहीं आ रहा। कुछ गड़बड़ की है।
We'll look into that. अभी देखते हैं।
हाँ जी, तो मैं शेयर स्टॉप करता हूँ।
ओके, सो फॉर नाउ जो भी हमारी कॉन्फ़िगरेशंस थी वो कॉन्फ़िगरेशंस हमने यहाँ पे अप्रोप्रिएटली इम्प्लीमेंट की हैं। जस्ट टू गिव यू अ क्विक लुक, हमने सबसे पहले MySQL क्लाइंट इंस्टॉल किया था। MySQL क्लाइंट इंस्टॉल करने के लिए आपको डिफ़ॉल्ट लाइव MySQL क्लाइंट -dev की ज़रूरत थी, वो इंस्टॉल कर लिया। MySQL क्लाइंट इंस्टॉल करने के बाद में हमने अपना डेटाबेस कॉन्फ़िगर किया। डेटाबेस में हमने लॉगिन किया यूजिंग sudo mysql-u root। पासवर्ड by default there is no password set on MySQL, so we have used this, जिसमें हमने डिफॉल्ट पासवर्ड के थ्रू हमने अपना MariaDB access किया database. Now within the database we got 4 databases by default available, so we created one more database known as dblog. Now within this dblog ये हमने डेटाबेस बनाया। इस डेटाबेस को एक्सेस करने के लिए हमने एक नया यूजर बनाया, ब्लॉग यूजर। उसका पासवर्ड हमने ABCD12345 स्पेसिफाई किया। हमने सारी परमिशंस अलॉट की DB ब्लॉग को, सो दैट वी कैन ब्लॉग यूजर कैन एक्चुअली क्रिएट टेबल्स एंड इंसर्ट, update, delete and perform all the operations. So for that we granted all the privileges to this, And finally, we use flush privileges to set everything done. Then after coming out of the database, we have gone to settings.py. settings.py के अंदर हमने कुछ specific configurations किए थे, where we set up the time zone. हमने अपनी static files की directory को configure किया और उसके बाद में हमने अपनी database configuration की. database configuration करने के बाद हमने अपनी my configuration के अंदर हमने अपना user, password और database name define किया. हमने encoding भी define किया, that encoding will be UTF-8. तो वंस वी वर डन विद दैट, हमने अपने सर्वर को स्टार्ट किया और सर्वर स्टार्ट करने के बाद में हमने उसे पोर्ट नंबर 8001 के ऊपर एग्जीक्यूट किया. वंस वी एग्जीक्यूटेड दैट, वी हैव गॉट दिस पेज रनिंग विदाउट एनी एरर. So that means the database was also configured appropriately and it is integrated with the project and the project is running fine. Now what next you guys need to do? You need to work out on the models. Okay. So on the models, we'll be working on the next step.